feather, light, work, asking, answer, accepting, honoring, all we are, earth to star.
Self-doubt for me looks like this. It's like being in traffic and then suddenly putting on the brakes in the middle of the flow and just creating a hazardous situation for ourselves because we're afraid, we have questions, we don't know if we're supposed to go left or right. We can't just make a decision. It's an indecisiveness, it's a unwillingness to take a risk, it's an unwillingness to be bold, wear those flashy colors, you know? It's just standing in our own way. It's a mental trap.
Well, it's interesting because you can also look at this in some ways. I know self-doubt can come in a lot of different fashions, but it can actually be people-pleasing disguised. Why are we doubting ourselves? We're doubting ourselves because of potentially how we'll be viewed, seen, judged.
Yeah, and it's also related to fear of failure, of course.
Right.
Self-doubt also looks like this. It's a major creative block. For a painter, you know, you're one brush stroke in and you're doubting, you're questioning if that's good enough. Do I want to make the next one? Looking at the brush strokes on a canvas and questioning whether it's good enough. It's questioning whether or not it's good enough it's worthy enough of somebody else's attention. Thinking of someone else, people pleasing. And we fail there because we're doubting ourselves with every step we make. We can't hold the bar too high for ourselves. That's a future thought, that's a destination there. But the journey is what it's all about, right? Joy in the journey. So joy in the journey eliminates the self-doubt. Keeping the joy in the journey makes every single step enjoyable, worthwhile, meaningful. And really, who are we trying to please with these little action steps we make? Are we trying to move a mountain with every single step we make? We don't have to carry that burden for all the universe to change everything and heal the world. Instead, we have to just one step at a time, light ourselves up over and over again, get out of our own way, remove that creative block. The creative block also looks like this. Did I spell that right? Doubting, did I, you know, is my sentence grammatically correct? So many ways to slow ourselves down. And I'm thankful for this, you know, modern technology that's simplifying these simple, mundane tasks for us so we can write from the heart and then come back to it with the tools and, you know, spruce it up. Write the first draft with the heart, second draft with the mind.
Yeah, absolutely. We set these expectations. Like when the painter sits down and is like, I don't know if this is going to be good enough. It can be an expectation. So I can identify, okay, I'm having an expectation. And then I can reroute myself back to the present moment and say, I have no expectations. I relieve myself from all expectations. And I come back to myself in this moment of now. You know, and then it allows me to continue to speak on camera. It allows me to continue to paint. It allows me to go back to, you know, whatever I'm doing. It's a beautiful thing to have an awareness in this way so that we can kind of navigate. Oftentimes I find like I just get stuck, and he's kind of articulating what that actually feels like. And so if I don't know why I'm stuck, I can come back and be like, am I setting an expectation for myself? Am I trying to meet an expectation? And sometimes I don't even have an answer, but whatever I'm in will just melt away because I've just like fried out my own brain, and I can just come back to, okay, how do I feel? You know, where's my heart at? Like, what do I want to do? Or if I'm painting, what is my favorite color? What color do I want to see? Or something of that notion. But you know, and there's a beautiful thing around that. We can shine light into the fact that we have expectations. We want to thrive, and we want to spread joy to ourselves and joy to others. And so we can just almost like look and communicate with those expectations as if it's part of our shadow. And I love you, beautiful expectation. Thank you for showing up for me, but I really I'm not feeling in resonance with you. I just want to go back to my heart.
Another good metaphor for the self-doubt phenomenon is illustrated musically in the drumming. If you have ever tried using a drum kit, you have a lot going on at one time, right? 4 different limbs doing different things. It's a lot to take in. And mentally, we can majorly create a block with every single step of it, multitasking in that way. But on a heart level, it's easy. I found when I was learning the drum kit, I could hardly hold a rhythm if I was doing it in my mind, trying to be precise with all of these things going on. But if I could just feel it and surrender to that flow, it came with such an ease and grace, and that's exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You might call it self-love. That might be exactly the remedy to overcoming self-doubt.
Yeah.
Just loving the present moment, right? Even on a hand drum, much less going on still, but we can be the pulse, the heart, musically for the community with the drum, with the hand drum, with any kind of drum, with even a maraca.
Yeah.
And there again, we're in a heart space. We're surrendering to the flow. We're letting the spirit move through us rather than using our minds to dominate or be precise or control the situation. Those are exactly the paths to self-doubt. But what's the path to self-love? And connective, harmonious expression is self-love. Everybody wants that. Everybody wants that. Everybody benefits when we love ourselves, when we pursue that path of joy.
That a lot of what's happening on here is we're dropping from a head space to a heart space, because that's really what this whole process is about. That's really what this whole human evolution, this spiritual expansion, we're coming from this limiting zone of the mind and dropping into this infinite space of the heart. Like Cabe's articulating, if he's trying to think about where he's going percussion wise, he's getting caught up with the expectation of where he wants to be and trying to meet that need precisely. But if he's just rolling with what's coming in and what's coming in through his heart space, he's just able to navigate even in a better way. So by trying to force or create what we already know, it stops our flow. It's stopping our flow. It's stopping that source energy. It's stopping the channel. It's stopping all of that heart essence from just manifesting in this now moment. So when we allow that manifestation of our true authenticity, whether it be through musical expression, our words, the way we commune, I think there's something to be said about our relationships in the community as a whole, or our relationships one-on-one, all of our friendships, all of our kinships. Those are also beautiful ways to usher in this flow, this heart consciousness. By being so authentic and showing up in so many ways, it leads us home to our money, our finances. By communicating what we love to do, we may be meeting the need of someone else in our community. Whereas if we were holding back, sharing what we love to do and what we have to offer this world, we're not going to potentially even open a channel where we might be meeting a need for someone else, when we could find that sacred reciprocity by speaking what's on our heart and presenting ourselves in the way we truly authentically be.
When I let the paint fly musically, it looks like this. It looks like a hypnotic riff. And with my muscle memory, I'm just surrendering to this hypnotic riff. I'm creating an atmosphere to go deep and explore. And it's so fun to play that game with a hum or a whistle, and then, bringing a message to that melody. There's so many enjoyable ways to, connect with my innermost through connecting with the present moment musically. And I know that can be done with piano too, those resonating chords, boo, and then that becomes a bed for expression and deep connection. And again, finding our voice. I want to emphasize again, constricting our voice has terrible consequences on our physical health. But honoring our voice, speaking our truth, singing our songs, bringing the medicine of our voice out. It's one of those ways we let the flow come with all its beauty and blessings.
So this brings us to fear of failure. This is an interesting one. This is an interesting concept. I don't find this so much in my day-to-day. I find this more in jump off moments, as I would articulate it. A jump off moment would be maybe in conversation where I want to say something and I don't say it. I do find, now that I'm talking about this out loud, I do feel like my fear of failure is more on a silent note, whereas I may be wanting to do something, but I just don't do it because ultimately what's underneath all of that is the fear of failure or not being good at it. I will be totally vulnerable and transparent and honest in that grammar and spelling and communication in that way are not my zone of genius, if you will. So for me, I see this often when I'm going to be communicating, writing, if I'm going to say something right, if I'm going to use the right grammar, if I'm going to spell the words right, if I'm going to use the right words. My first form of communication, my highest form of communication is frequency. I'd much rather communicate from the heart, and that's where I feel like I can really get my message across. So I'll often like reroute the way I communicate or hold back on the way I communicate for fear of coming off or failing to articulate what it is I'm actually trying to say. But I do encounter this a lot with clients and peers as we kind of move through this, where they like literally have this fear of not being able to even try for fear of not being good enough. So it really is tied to a lot of really deep unworthiness. And I'd love for you to speak on that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm an artist. I'm a professional artist. That's exactly the path that I've always been afraid to surrender to. I was born an artist. My dad was an art teacher. I had encouragement from a young age. I was awarded for the arts. The world seemed to want me to be an artist. And I was just in my own way. I was scared. I was scared that I wouldn't be able to earn money through art. And that was the single limiting factor. That was a single fearful thought that prevented me, totally restricted me every step of my adult life, every step of my working life as an adult. I was in my way, fearing that I couldn't make a living through my art.
Can we go into that?
Yeah.
Could you, if you can go back to that, could you potentially identify where you found this belief that you could not make a living from your art?
When I was a kid, I had an unnatural worry spell. I don't exactly know where it originated, but I remember hearing my parents late at night arguing, and it was almost always related to money concerns, financial concerns. How are we going to pay the bills? You're giving too much here. We need to give there. How are we going to, just worry. I didn't see a lot of models of trusting the universe to provide or the financial flow to come when we have an open-heartedness and a willingness. Ultimately, my parents were stretched financially throughout my whole childhood. And then eventually when I was a high schooler, they divorced. And then their financial strain was even worse. I had it planted in my mind that the path of the artist was poor and full of defeat. And, I think about Vincent van Gogh and what a horrible nightmare of a life he lived. And those are the types of stories that I was telling myself. And those are the types of fearful thoughts that were preventing me from being able to be so bold as to study art when I went to college. Instead, I studied advertising because I thought it was safer. It did accept the fact that I had artistic gifts, but in the business world, I thought I would make more money. And I created this whole dream job for myself of being an advertising art director. I thought it was like safe, but that job turned out to be a nightmare in itself because the advertising industry as a whole is designed to promote commercialism, to sell things that aren't ordinarily sellable, to sell hamburgers by making them angelic. That was a classic deal breaker for me. And another point in my life, I wanted to pursue the American dream with a white picket fence and live in this fancy house and have this cushy lifestyle. So I pursued an MBA for that reason. And then I found out about this graduate film program at the same school. And as soon as I started hearing about digital filmmaking, and wow, that really lit me up. I got so excited. I jumped right to there the next semester. I jumped into this film program and I loved it. I lived it to the max. There were times when I didn't even sleep at night because I was writing a screenplay. I was just so lit up. Every step of it was so fun. Learning how to work a camera, learning, how to tell a good story. And a really surprising turn of events happened on the last day of my first semester when my professors all got together, and one of them humiliated me by calling me Mr. Artist. And I know without any doubt that I stood out in that program, and I was bold, and I took creative risks, and I made creative leaps. And throughout the semester, I was rewarded and acknowledged for good, strong moves I was making. And then at the end, they made this gesture to try to humble me. I'm sure there was love behind it. I'm sure they were motivated by love. I'm sure they had good intentions. But I interpreted it as, no, the world doesn't want you and your stinking art. No, you can't be bold like that. No, if you want to be an artist, you're going to have to go to a different school. You're going to have to go to a different place for people like you. And I actually was devastated. I took a couple days to think about it. I cried a lot. I felt so rejected. These same professors who invited me to help teach the screenwriting class the next semester suddenly had their backs turned against me because it was a school that was new at digital filmmaking. And I think they just had their own self-doubt. I think they had their own fear of failure in mind. And, you know, if I was going to be the poster child of that school, would I be a threat to them? So they tried to put me in my place, and, you know, they achieved that. I felt completely rejected and, you know, fear of failure galore, you know, all the fears of how am I possibly going to make a Casablanca type film? What I have accessible to me is art. Art is pouring through my veins. That's what I can make with a camera. But their emphasizing of the fear of failure worsened that fear in me. And then again, I kept on choosing the safer route, the tried and true American dream path that would lead me to victory. But that just wasn't authentic to me. For whatever reason, God made me this way. And, you know, God gave me these tools for expression in this particular way, this unique set of skills, this unique vision to see people with flower heads, to, you know, see things in a different way, to, you know, what lights me up is different from what lights someone else up. So these are the types of life experiences that were getting in the way. Yeah, so my journey as an artist took a lot of winding turns, and I always had a place for art in my life. I always created space for me to, you know, cultivate those talents, to practice, to express myself for myself. And I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for every now and then making time for me to enjoy a present moment immersed in the arts. And it brought me to this place now in my 40s where I'm finally able to sell art. I'm finally able to feel encouragement from the world because I'm true to myself. I'm true to that light inside of me, that love inside of me, that unique perception of the divine. And to put that onto a canvas and to put that in a frame and to offer it to the world feels so liberating. I feel so alive. In this moment, I feel more true to myself than I've ever been. And it's because I'm embracing who I truly am.
So can I ask you a question? So I would love for you to tell us how your art is being received now that you're allowing this to happen and you're really stepping up and being 100% authentic and vulnerable. How are other people receiving your art?
Yeah, I haven't even had a gallery show yet, but I just happened to display some art at a conference festival that I was filming. And I had some art on display there as part of the decor. And almost every single one of those pieces sold, these big giant paintings. And I just suddenly realized financial freedom here and other ways besides my computer work to bring my gifts into the world. It opens up a totally different door, not only to prosperity, but to self-acceptance and, you know, visioning big and thinking outside the box and granting myself that freedom to be me.
Right. And it's allowing, and it's kind of interesting how this happened because, Spirit definitely worked its magic. And that first time, it wasn't even an intention. There was a printing mistake. And we wound up having a surplus of this art. And we decided, and he decided, and I supported, but he decided to put this on display. And this is just one way of really seeing how it can just magically happen. We don't want to limit it with how we believe we can earn money. We want to activate the belief that we can earn money in this way and clear a limiting belief that we can't earn money doing the things that we love. Because unfortunately, our family and our institution and our school have been keeping us safe. And a reality that is now shifting. We are now up-leveling to a new level of consciousness where we're all getting into alignment with our gifts and our skills and what we were here and our purpose that we were put here and put ourselves here to create and undertake. So we don't limit. We just know that somehow God, Creator, Mother, Father, God will take care of us in that way and will put ourselves in the path of least resistance and will allow our energy to manifest in this world and what really truly lights us up. And we will allow that to bring us in richnesses of health, wealth, and connection. So what I'd like to do now, before we kind of wrap up, what I'd like to do now is bring us to a place of choosing in that way. Because we can allow, and we can always allow, and it's always good to allow and be open to receive in that way. But we can also navigate that in a higher way by putting us on our highest timeline. And what we mean by highest timeline is the timeline in which, and this is the reality, our time, our moments, our day-to-day, our interactions, our timeline, be in this way in the highest frequency, be in the love, be seen, be heard, be received. This is what a highest timeline is. Interact with the people that just happen to need what you're offering, just happen to align with what you have to offer this world, whatever that offering is, whether that be your art or your gifts or your creations or your fashion, caretaking of children, whether you're organizing of someone's finances or organizing someone's home, what really lights you up, what your offer is in this world. And by being on that highest timeline, we're just creating that we trust that we'll be interacting with those folks who are in need of what we have to offer, whatever it may be. So is that okay? Can we do that?
Yeah.
Okay, so what we're going to do is just set ourselves up. So just closing our eyes, grounding ourselves into this present moment, grounding ourselves into our illuminated heart space, activating our heart space. This is just a place of being. And we're decreeing, we're choosing, we're demanding, we're allowing ourselves to be on that highest timeline. Being on that highest timeline of sacred reciprocity, ultimate flow, and allowing of all the jewels and riches and love and health, wealth, and connection to come into our path. We're activating a clearing to remove any limiting beliefs around this. I'd like to specifically offer this up for you. If you're in alignment to this, allow this in as well. It is not a necessity, it is an option. Clearing the limiting belief, then I cannot make money doing what I love. We're just asking that be removed from our being, removed from our field, removed from our reality. Thank you for your service. Thank you for bringing us home to self. And now I'm asking for that to be dissolved. And so it is in that way. We are that powerful that we can dissolve that in that way. Closing down any timelines where that's open and living, shutting down any timelines where that's open and living, coming back to that present moment, choosing that highest timeline. An activation of I allow all that is meant to me to come to me effortlessly. I allow all the prosperity to come into my world, whether that be health, wealth, or connection, effortlessly. I receive the sacred reciprocity that this environment has for me, always, in all ways. And so it is. And shutting down any timelines that are not a frequency match to that. Closing anything into this present moment. grounding that all the way down to the core of the earth, all the way down to the quartz garden, anchoring in this new reality, this highest timeline, grounding us in this good way. Taking a breath there and one more breath there. And coming all the way back up through all the layers of our beautiful earth, all the way back up into our physical bodies, all the way back, anchoring that all the way into our heart space, illuminating our sacred heart space. Coming back into this present moment of now, bringing our awareness back into our body, wiggling our toes and our fingers. And when you're feeling comfortable, butterfly your eyes open, coming back into this beautiful space. And so it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel that.
Me too. Doesn't everything look sparkly?
Mm-hmm.
And the greens are brighter. And
Yeah, feel sparkles in my heart.
Mm-hmm.
Feel clarity in my thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Feel calm in my body. I'd love to recap some of the gems from this time of focused energy toward being true to who we are.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Let's remember to slow down, check in, ask a question. What lights us up? What lights me up? Standing in that present moment of what is lighting me up. Allowing the flow, surrendering to the flow that already exists. Being in that, allowing that to support us in that gesture of being where we are. On this path of love, on this path of light, what lights us up, what we love. Honoring where we are in the process, even if it's a radical truth that distances us from someone else, even at the risk of being bold and being different and standing out, being willing to be the change we wish to see in the world. Also, being okay with the dry riverbed state where the water doesn't seem to be coming, where the divine flow doesn't seem to be rippling in this moment, and yet it still exists. It still ripples, it still blesses us up. We still feel the Holy Spirit with us always, working wonders. So being true to ourselves, acknowledging those times, the whole spectrum of emotions, the whole spectrum of reality and variations in the water levels in our lives, and enjoying the beauty of this dry riverbed state too.
Follow your heart, feel into your body, be mindful of what you're experiencing. Your body has a level of consciousness that can help us navigate through all of these up-levelings and understandings and soul evolution that bring us back home to our sacred self, our sacred, raw, authentic, beautiful selves.